Hello everyone, welcome back to Believers CS Academy Bengaluru. This is our topic of the day, and today's topic is Trump versus BRICS. Okay, the topic is that recently Trump has made a tweet in X. That is, he tweeted that Trump threatens 100% tariff on BRICS nations over plans to replace US dollar. Okay, so there is a kind of conflict going on between Trump and BRICS countries. Maybe actually Trump versus all the countries. There is a conflict between Trump versus all the countries because what is Trump's aim? Trump's aim is to MAGA, that is Make America Great Again. So in this bid to make America great again, he is having difficulties with all the countries. He is having fights with all the countries. So in this, one of the fight is between America and BRICS nation. So why it is in news? So recently, President-elect Donald Trump has threatened the BRICS nations. Who are the BRICS nations? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. He has threatened the BRIC nations with 100% tariffs if they create a new currency or support an alternative to the US dollar as the global reserve currency. Okay, so presently US dollar is the global reserve currency. Many of the countries use global like US dollars as the currency for transaction between different like international transactions. So it acts as a reserve currency in IMF also. Okay, IMF also, but now many countries are moving away from dollar, and one of the grouping was BRICS. They wanted to move away from dollar and they wanted to reduce the dependence on USA. But now Trump has said that if you are going to move away from dollar, if you are going to make your own currency, then I am going to put 100% tariff on you. This 100% tariff on you is going to hamper you economically. You are not going to enter my like America again. You are not going to enter your goods into America again. So it is going to affect you only. So Trump also stated that any attempt to undermine the dollar's dominance would result in economic retaliation, asserting that US economy will not tolerate such moves. Okay, so now we'll understand why there are countries all over the world that are trying to replace US dollar. Okay, why they are trying to replace US dollar? Okay, for obvious reasons. First one is weaponization of dollar. Okay, USA has over the time used dollar as a weapon. USA has increasingly used its financial dominance as a geopolitical tool by imposing sanctions and cutting off countries like Iran and Russia from systems like SWIFT. Okay, so what is SWIFT? SWIFT is like Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications, which is a key to international financial transactions. Okay, if there is an international transaction between India and USA, it is normally happening through this SWIFT mechanism. Okay, so now the USA, because of its adversary nature with Iran and Russia, it has removed them from the SWIFT system. It is like autocratic in nature. Okay, a country is removing another two countries from international mechanism like this. Okay, international financial mechanism like this. So now, so it is obviously using its power as a financial power, as a financial superpower, and it is imposing sanctions on countries like Iran and Russia. Here, they are able to impose sanction on these countries because most of the countries are dependent on dollar as their transaction currency, and most of the countries go through SWIFT for the currency transaction. Okay, so now they're saying that okay, if you can impose sanctions on other countries, you can impose sanctions on my country only if you are dependent on dollars. So what we are going to do is we are not going to depend on dollars. Do whatever you want. We'll transact between our currencies only, so that there will be no market fluctuations. There will be no this SWIFT transactions is required. Then, so this weaponization of dollar has raised concerns about the dollar being used as a weapon against sovereign nations. So their countries are saying, why should we depend on dollar, man? We can go away from this and we can depend on our own currency. And then there is also reducing dependence on the USA. Okay, the US dollar remains the dominant global currency, accounting for 88% of the global forex reserves. Okay, global forex dollar. Relying the US dollar makes countries vulnerable to US monetary policies. This is very important. US monetary policies, which are primarily designed for the American economy, but can have global repercussions. So suppose if you are completely dependent on dollar, okay, if you are completely dependent on dollar, so America and its federal bank, through its monetary policy, it can have certain policies which can benefit the country, benefit their economy. But what happens here is the policies which can benefit their country can be harmful for other countries. Okay, can be harmful for other country because they are dependent on dollar. Okay, now for example, RBI India. Okay, RBI is India Central Bank. It is making some monetary policy changes. It is going to impact mainly Indian economy. Okay, it is not going to impact other countries' economy because other countries are not dependent on our rupees. But here the case is different. If Federal Bank of USA is making certain monetary policies, bringing certain policies which is going to benefit USA, but in turn it is going to harm other countries because they are overly dependent on this dollar. Okay, so now they want to move away from this one. Okay, famous example is about dollar federal, like uh, Fed tapering. Okay, Fed tapering. So this was in news because what happened is there was a inflation in USA. Sorry, there was deflation in USA. As a result, USA like like reduce interest rates so that people can buy like take more money and they can spend more money. So initially, what it happened is it resulted in outflux of many dollars. Okay, so much of dollar is outflux, and many of the countries bought these dollars. But what happened is after the economy got back into its reshape. So what they did is they tapered the interest rate. Okay, they increased the interest rate so that money can be sucked out of market, which had a negative implications all the other countries. Okay, so learn more about this Fed tapering. Now, for instance, here what they're explaining here is the US interest rates can strengthen the dollar, causing capital outflows and economic instability in other countries. Okay, so stronger interest rate or higher interest rate, people want to deposit more and people want to save more. Okay, and people want to like take less loans because the interest rates are also high. So this is going to have negative impact on other countries who are dependent on dollar. Then economic sovereignty. And nowadays, nations wish to reduce external influence on their financial systems by de-dollarizing. They aim to shield their economies from fluctuations in the dollar and in the form of political pressures. Okay, so like post World War II, there was only one country which gained hegemony. There were two countries actually, Russia and USA. They gained hegemony, and USA, especially because of its Western ideology, because of its allies, it was able to influence. It was able to put its pressure on other countries. As a result, dollar became a universal currency, and especially after the death of USSR, especially after the disintegration of USSR, there was only one superpower, that was USA, and it was able to do as it wishes. Okay, and many countries were unable to oppose USA. Okay, so most of the countries, even though they were sovereign in nature, they were dependent on USA. Now the countries are gaining their GDP. Now the countries are gaining their economy. Now the countries are also developing, so they want to move away from USA. They don't want to be in the debt of USA anymore. They want to be completely sovereign. So that is why they are moving away from dollar. Next, trade efficiency. Regional and bilateral trade agreements often promote settling trades in local currencies or alternatives like Chinese yuan or other regional payment mechanisms, bypassing the dollar altogether. Okay, so now if you are going to have a trade pact with other countries, for example, India and Bangladesh, we are going to have a trade pact. So India and Bangladesh can trade between each other with the Bangladeshi rupees or Indian rupees. Okay, there is no need of dollar. That should be the ideal condition, but because of the market transactions, what happens here is dollar is there in the market, so all your money, all your rupee and Bangladeshi rupee are weighed against the dollar. Okay, weighed against the dollar. If the dollar is rate of dollar is going down, then it will have negative implications on economy. If the rate of dollar is going high, it is again having positive implications on the economy. So now, instead of using the dollar as a medium, instead of settling bilateral trades in the dollar, what the many countries are doing is they are trying to settle bilateral trades in their own country. So now they are bypassing the market fluctuations because they are no longer dependent on dollar. Then rise of multipolarity. Okay, as I told you, post disintegration of USSR, there was only one superpower, there was USA. But 30 years later, there are many countries who are growing, such as mainly China, India, Brazil, and other countries who are also on the rise in GDP. So they are now focusing on improving their own domestic currency, and they are focusing on internationalizing their own domestic currency. Okay, that is why most of the countries are moving away from USA. Then US debt and inflation. Recently, US's growing debt levels and inflationary pressures have raised concerns about the long-term stability and purchasing power of the dollar, prompting countries to explore alternatives. Okay, so now the what you say perception about USA is that USA is no longer the superpower it was before. USA no longer maintains the USA no longer maintains the hegemony it used to maintain before some 50 years, because now other alternatives are there also, such as China, India, and Russia. They are also moving forward. So many of the countries, because of the rising debt and inflation in USA, they are thinking that this can have implications on dollar, this can have implications on like this can have implications on the value of dollar also. So they think that purchasing power of the dollar can reduce, so instead of depending on dollar, let's move away from it. Then avoiding transaction cost, I already explained this one. So conducting trade in the US dollar often involves high transaction cost and conversion cost. Using local currencies or regional alternatives can reduce these expenses. Okay, then so it is about why the other countries are moving away from dollar. What about India? What is India doing in this regard? So India is also focusing on internationalization of the rupee. What is internationalization of rupee? International is such that rupee can be easily convertible in capital account also. Rupee can be used as a mode of exchange in international transactions. That is internationalization of rupee, similar to dollar. So it is a process that involves increasing use of the local currency in cross-border transactions. That is internationalization. So basically, it is a process of promoting and increasing the use of INR as widely accepted currency for international transaction and involvements. How dollar is accepted worldwide. So they want Indian dollar rupees to be accepted worldwide also. That is called as internationalization of rupee. So there have been certain steps which have been taken in this regard. That is settlement of international trade in rupees. In July 2022, RBI has provided an additional arrangement of invoicing, payment, and settlement of exports and imports in the rupee. Okay, now there is no need of dollar again. As part of this mechanism, in December 2022, India saw its first settlement of foreign trade in rupee with Russia. Okay, so there is no dollar again. So far, banks of more than 19 countries, including UK, New Zealand, Germany, Malaysia, Israel, and the UAE, have been permitted to make settlements in rupee. So India is on the right track. But what are the challenges? Okay, rupee is not as dominant as dollar, because rupee constitutes only 1.6% of the global forex turnover. Compare this with dollar. Dollar constitutes 88%. So there is a huge gap between these two currencies. Then, for the rupee to be recognized as an international currency, its turnover must rise to 4%, equivalent to other non-US, non-euro currencies. Okay, only if it rises to 4% of the global turnover, only then it can be recognized as an international currency. Now, what are the challenges in India-Russia trade in rupee? Okay, so India and Russia, as we discussed previously, have settled their trade between each other through rupees. What are the challenges? US sanctions fear, because US are treated already. So now there is a fear that Indian banks are cautious about facilitating trade in rupees due to potential US sanctions. Okay, as USA already sanctioned Russia, and it has removed Russia from SWIFT, and it has also put CATSA, that is countering American adversaries, through Sanctions Act. Okay, it has also it has also threatened India, threatened that it is going to sanction India if it is going to purchase S-400 from Russia, or if it is going to purchase some petrol or diesel or oil from crude oil from Iran. Then trade imbalances. India's import from Russia vastly outweigh exports. Okay, so India has a trade deficit with Russia, where 61 billion is Russia's exports, whereas only 4.2 billion is India's exports, resulting in Russia holding large rupee reserves. These reserves are underutilized in the trade and are instead invested in Indian stocks and bonds. Okay, so this can have an inflationary trend in the upcoming days, because Russia has already so much of reserves. It can use these currencies against India in certain, unfortunately, if such situation arises. Okay, they can invest in stocks and other markets. They can flux, or they can fill Indian markets with lots of rupees, leading to inflation. Then, so what are the lessons India should learn from Russia-China trade in domestic currencies? Similar to India and Russia, China and Russia also settled their trades between each other through their common currencies. So over 90% of their 240 billion bilateral trade in 2023 was settled in rubles of Russia, yuan of China. This is possible due to their more balanced trade relationship, and reduced dependence on the US dollar. Okay, so here between China and Russia, the trade is almost equal. Okay, both are exporting similar amount, both are importing similar amount. Okay, but whereas in India it is highly tilted towards Russia. So that is why there is negatives. So we should focus on improving our exports to Russia. Then India, so there is also saying that it is not trying to target US dollar. India is not trying to target US dollar. It is only looking for alternative settlement mechanisms when the trade partners face dollar shortages to ensure continued trade without hostility towards the dollar. Okay, so that this is just the India is saying that we are not focusing on targeting dollar, so don't put sanctions on us. We are just focusing on finding alternative mechanisms. Only when the other country doesn't have enough dollars to settle the trades, only then we are going for rupee as a medium. Okay, then what will be the risks of imposing 100% tariffs on BRIC nations? So many experts argue that imposing 100% tariff on BRIC nations could backfire because imports into the US would simply shift to the third countries, potentially increasing costs for American consumers without bringing manufacturing jobs back home. Okay, and then US has become less competitive in the manufacturing labor intensive goods due to higher production costs, and tariffs are unlikely to reverse this trend. Okay, so it can backfire against USA itself because USA is not the manufacturing power it was before. It has been replaced by China in this regard, and USA is no more power in service sectors. This has been replaced by Southeast Asian countries and India. So even after the tariff, US goods or US manufactured goods cannot be as competitive as they are compared to Chinese goods. So they are saying that it is better not to impose 100% tariffs on BRICS. Then what should be the way forward? The way forward is there should be a need for balanced framework in BRICS. Experts have emphasized that India should ensure BRICS currency initiatives do not disproportionately favor China due to its economic dominance. Okay, so India should play important role here. Then India's strategic approach is that India must take a balanced approach. That is, it should engage in diplomatic engagements. It should explain to the US that diversifying trade mechanisms promotes financial stability and it is not anti-American. So they are saying that in the article, the experts are saying that India should act as a mediator. India should act as a pacifier. Okay, and leadership in BRICS initiative. It is saying that accelerate the internationalization of India's digital currency, that is CBDC, and financial platforms like UPI, and to assume a leadership role. Okay, so now the time is ripe. So within the BRICS, India can increase its influence by internationalizing India's digital currency and UPI platform. So the conclusion here is India must balance its participation in BRICS financial reforms with strategic ties to the US while ensuring the frameworks do not favor China. Okay, and then the global financial system shows diversification, but the US dollar remains dominant with gradual shift towards non-traditional currencies. But what do you say? What's Trump's 100% tariff on BRICS is kind of exaggerated, so that is not required because even if BRICS nations are going to find a new currency to settle between themselves, it is not going to impose any threat to dollar because dollar is like one of the not one of the currency in the world. Okay, the currency in the world, like all the transactions, most of the transactions in the world in international trades are done by dollar itself. Okay, so there is no need for USA to worry. Instead, it should focus on improving its manufacturing base, etc., etc. So this is about today's topic. Okay, if you like the video, please if you like the video, please hit the like button, comment on it, and also subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. And if you have any doubts, do write in the comment box. I will be clearing those doubts. Or if you have any suggestion for me, a recommendation for me on my teaching or the way I deal with the class, you can also write that one also. And if you have any doubts, you can write that as well. With this, I will end the session. Jai Hind.